Today I want to discuss the dangers of the Iranian plan of the Obama administration, touch on the dangers of ISIL and other perils in the Middle East and South Asia, and of the utter failure of leadership of the Democrat Barack Obama. As we look back on this in decades and centuries to come, if we look back, it will appear to us like the time of Presidents Martin Van Buren and James Buchanan appear in the run-up to our terrible Civil War in 1860. It was a time of feckless leadership and tragic mistakes. Today, we have many youth, people from non-white races and cultures, and youth turning to experimenting not only with sex, but unleashing homosexuals and lesbians upon the good people of the United States. While a shadowy, black identity-based Muslim and extremist political figure, Obama, has been installed in the White House and kept there by media-driven campaigns based on attacking Christianity, not to mention the professed morality of Muslims, with homosexuality, lesbianism, putting children into their families, promoting the early and often use of a range of drugs, rampant crime and lawlessness, attacks on police, now attacks on our military installations, while Obama, at best, wrings his hands and in many ways actually orchestrates and glories in these unspeakable developments. And now, on July 20th, Barack Obama, having arranged a deal that basically allows Iran to receive its frozen assets and keep the heart of their nuclear technology, even politely arranging for the return of their nuclear scientific leadership, in a move akin to the release of the criminal masterminds from Guantanamo Bay in exchange for a missing in action Bo Bergdahl, who disobeyed military orders, resulting in loss of life of soldiers. Obama now has led an unprecedented and, in my opinion, treasonous action at the UN Security Council, pretending that the United States, as formerly one of the most powerful nations and inspirations in that most recent international body, that America casts its vote for that plan. Even members of Congress are openly condemning this action. Obama's White House envisions for Iran a regime of hardly credible inspections that would eliminate any Americans entirely from participation, to stop them from breaking out to a full-blown nuclear arsenal in this corner of the world. And now Obama has led the UN to approve that deal, cutting out America completely. Because America enters into treaties through our elected representatives, if they are elected, which in many cases they are not, in Congress, this action is unconstitutional and a betrayal of the United States and a danger to the world. In this case, Obama faithfully, like a faithful servant for Muslim leaders in the Middle East, has restored the nuclear program and its experts to Iran, with apologies from America, I believe. And Obama has basically said, we're just going to stop arguing and play nice. Not any kind of credible deal. And of course, he would not even come to Congress to discuss it before he arranged for the nation, in violation of our Constitution, to enter into a UN treaty, pretending it was a private executive action, his prerogative, pretending it was for the good of the country, that he must act without congressional backing. And now on July 20th, he arranged for Samantha Powers to cast a vote in the United States in the United Nations Security Council. This allows all other nations to step in and give Iran all the money and weapons and technology they desire, rendering the sanctions imposed by the U.S. Congress seeking to prevent this development. Those sanctions are now completely irrelevant. Others will step in to promote Iran's goals, essentially setting off not only a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, but in fact a whole new international order there. I believe that the countries who voted with Samantha Powers and Barack Obama and the United States Democrats a national party who are being used by extremist American leaders, left wing or whatever. These other countries like China, Russia, some of the other powers in Europe, they do not want nuclear war or the use of nuclear weapons or a dirty bomb or terrorism. And so their action could at best be viewed as a first line of defense by an interim action by other countries because of the plain lack of leadership from Obama's White House against an ongoing nuclear program in Iran. Now Congress must act to protect America and to protect the world and to begin the road back. Initial polls showed that while a bare majority, quote, approve of the deal, and that was when they thought Congress, not Obama, and the UN Security Council would vote on it, but just 35% thought it would work. This shows a number of voters don't get it. If it's not going to work, we're introducing a much higher risk of nuclear annihilation. Apparently today, a lot of people are nihilists. They just want to eat, drink, and be merry. But they don't think, for tomorrow we die. But that is what we court if we go with Obama's and Kerry's deal. I believe we need to expand the action begun by the Security Council, even Obama's act of betrayal, to build a stable international order and foreign policy in the Middle East, of which this Iran nuclear issue and the rise of the evil and savage military actions of ISIL, these are really only symptoms. This has all been accelerated and caused mightily by an utterly feckless foreign policy. Remember the infamous Arab Spring, centered on Hillary Clinton, the present Democratic presumptive nominee, and that could change, she has some kind of competition, and the 2008 candidate Barack Obama, leading us down a road to chaos and destruction. It is true that the unraveling of Iran began decades ago, in the middle part of the last century. It has now unraveled to the point that Barack Obama is sitting down with John Kerry and a so-called team of negotiators with a nation whose leaders are at the same time shouting in the streets, "Death to America." And we're giving them weapons of mass destruction. And with leaders already disavowing this deal in Iran and saying it won't change anything. It will change nothing, they say, about death to America or death to Israel. John Kerry appeared to be acting irrationally for some time now. And he said that we will have an agreement if Allah wills it. Inshallah is the Arabic word used by America's negotiator. Maybe he is terrified and losing it to cause this kind of behavior. Perhaps he has become a convert. How did we get here, and where do we go from here? The Shah of Iran, who from the 1950s presided while America and others were purchasing oil and actually taking it out of the ground on favorable terms, he was deposed in the 1970s, and soon religious leaders inspired a student uprising and insurrection in the streets that seized the U.S. Embassy and all of the Americans there and held them hostage. Since that time, our relations with Iran have been inimical, and they still largely are. We have gone our separate ways, as we actually backed Saddam Hussein to fight a terrible bloody war against Iran, hoping to topple the regime. Iran not only fought there, but inspired extremely aggressive military action reaching up to Israel's border and into the Saudi interests. It is not just that they are on a terrorist list. This is trite. Many of our voters in 2008 and 2012 essentially said, "Oh, I know about that terrorist list. Let's go back to partying and playing with our bodies in strange new ways and strange new mental experiments. Oh, and we'll get paid time off forced by the federal government." These kinds of things, rather than being aware. Our National Guardsmen were drafted out of their work in corporate America and sent to fight a part-time war in the Middle East. But this nation, Iran, is an extremely capable, extremely dedicated, and fanatical nation of ancient history. and they are but one. That is why they are at war with ISIL, a non-Arab competitor. They are saying that Iran is non-Arab. They're a competitor with Saudi Arabia to lead. There are many such dangerous powers throughout the entire Middle East and South Asian world, extending to Afghanistan and Pakistan, an area where we have been drawn into war. We still remain engaged in a dangerous, volatile world. The danger of Muslim extremism extends all the way to the Philippines and Indonesia, where the young Barry Soetoro, the name of the man who raised him, grew up. And now the Democratic National Party has invited him into the White House, and they're screaming and shouting and dreaming of new perversions they could latch onto to expand their base, attacking any kind of white male leadership, an anti-American party. America has been radicalized. We are on our way, if we don't come to our senses, to further extreme radicalization, deterioration, and potentially annihilation. We must come to our senses. And I propose that we and other nations influential in the Middle East and South Asia come to our senses and help to lead a way forward there. We would make an ultimatum to ISIL to surrender. We would draw up national borders to be respected, including a place for the Kurds, and we would cease trying to socially engineer and militarily impose new constitutions in the region, with Hillary gender quotas for women. We would let them govern themselves, not have America govern them. We would bring a just and lasting peace, not as victors, but as supporters of stability, supporters of a future for the many peoples in that region. We would lead, if we can find leadership still in this nation, a solution not only of this race to nuclear weaponization, but other savagery and uncivilization in the region. We would return civilization along with stability, lasting peace, and humanity, just basically returning to the level of human beings. We see a steady stream of medieval atrocities on the internet, much as the Vietnam War was brought into our living room by daily news reports in the 1970s. And as Congress attempts to assert whatever authority they are able to muster with the lone wolf in the White House, Obama, our information is, although Obama has not come to America and said this, that Iran has religiously attempted to develop a nuclear bomb, not just use nuclear power, whose development began under the Shah with support and approval from the United States and from other Western countries. It is not just that we want to prevent a bomb from increasing the danger in the region. Our leaders now believe that Iran has attempted to develop a nuclear bomb, and they have enough low-grade uranium that could be enriched to create 10 nuclear bombs. Let that sink in, because before they would not reveal Iran's past nuclear activity, which Kerry knew and Obama knew. We hope Samantha Powers knew it when she pretended to cast a vote for the United States in the UN Security Council. Now I hear many young people today say, well, so what of it? Of course, it's unfortunate for Japan, who suffered the use of the world's first 2 nuclear bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But what is the real danger to us? Why do we need to stop our partying and pursuit of gain and pleasure to worry about this? Well, of course, those were just the first 2 weapons, tested and developed just in time to slow the military assault of the Japanese Empire. And yet, that was awesome enough and destructive enough to bring the Great World War, World War II, to a halt. And obviously, you cannot imagine the state of this country and the world at that time, although there are many still alive who can, who do remember, and who have said, never again. And into this ultimate fear come the lightweight, anti-American, radical Barack Obama and his coterie of would-be revolutionaries, like Bill Ayers, the Clintons, and others. We must turn around, and my proposal is to do just that. As you consider who you will support for president, for the U.S. Senate and the U.S. House of Representatives, federal offices who must be selected in accordance with the United States Constitution, For instance, Article 1, Section 4 of that fundamental document, which commands states to democratically elect members of the Congress by prescribed election rules in advance. As you weigh this decision, you need to stop the hootin' and hollerin'. Stop looking to further yourself alone, as if you can exist without the United States beneath your feet. And consider, and learn, and listen, and talk to each other. What is the road back? It's neither of these two so-called alternatives posed by Barack Obama in attempting to defend his actions. He says, accept my proposal or face the wrath of military war upon you. Obviously, we must reject this agreement. Obviously, we must work with those same nations who just voted, especially Russia, Israel, with Syria, and even Iran, to immediately put a stop to the so-called caliphate of uncivilized savagery called ISIS. We must allow them to peacefully surrender. We must use international troops. And because we will work together to restore civilization to the Middle East, we will call upon Iran to go much further than what Obama and Kerry have arranged. They must return to peacefulness as ISIS is shut down and the borders restored. We must tell the world that we, as Christians, Jews, Buddhists, and Muslims, and all peoples of faith and conscience, desire peace and will forcefully and fairly act to restore it. That will be a legacy for the entire U.S. government and entire U.S. people, all of us who commit to this. God bless America. Thank you for listening. This is Steve Carlson. I'm a candidate for President of the United States in 2016, and I'm an independent candidate from Minnesota. We must found this initiative on the leadership of the 53% of the American voters who don't align with the Democrats or Republicans, but align with America and our free Constitution. I'm Steve Carlson, and I approve this message.